I'm happy that you're happy, but the place where you're supposed to have the toilet paper, you got this little shelf with 3 seashells on it.
He doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells.
Sylvester Stallone was definitely one of the most iconic action stars in the 80s and 90s, and somehow has managed to keep many franchises going on for decades, and even now that he is in his mid-70s, he still has a great physique and seems to be unstoppable. I can honestly say that age is just a number, and when you have the passion of Stallone, action films can even be made in old age. This video is the second part of a retrospective view of Stallone's career, highlighting some of his best movies and franchises. The previous video spoke about his early childhood and rise to fame with Rocky in 1976, and this video will focus on Stallone throughout the 80s and 90s. With the success of the first Rocky movie, Stallone was starting to get more and more notoriety, and he started in the 1980s with a big bang filming the movie Escape the Victory, alongside Michael Caine. This movie focuses on a team of Allied prisoners of war that are coached by Michael Caine, who agrees to play an exhibition match against the German team, only to get strung along in a German propaganda stunt. This movie did do well at the box office and was a good start to the 1980s for Stallone, but we can't speak about this time period without acknowledging the 1982 movie First Blood, which initiated the Rambo franchise that spawned 4 sequels with a total of 5 films, an animated television series, comic books, novels, video games, a Bollywood remake, and possibly even more sequels in the works. First Blood is based on the 1972 novel of the same name. The story follows Rambo, a troubled Vietnam veteran who's traveling by foot through a small town of Hope, Washington. He gets intercepted by the town sheriff, Will Teasel, who doesn't seem to appreciate the fact that Rambo is passing through their town. In order to get him out as fast as possible, he offers Rambo a ride. After dropping him off, Rambo goes back into the town of Hope and is intercepted and arrested once again by Teasel, who charges Rambo for vagrants, resisting arrest, and possession of a concealed knife. Upon his arrest, they try to dry shave him with a straight razor, which triggers Rambo to have flashbacks of his wartime, and all hell breaks loose, making him flee into the woods. From this point on, the movie becomes a war between John Rambo and the abusive law enforcement people of the small town of Hope. The first rough cut of the film was 3.5 hours long, and apparently was so bad that Stallone tried to buy the rights in order to destroy the movie, thinking it'd be a career killer. After many re-edits, the film was shortened to 92 minutes, with a new ending being filmed in 1982. First Blood got mixed reviews, but did do very well at the box office. Critics praised Stallone's performance, saying he made Rambo seem human, and obviously First Blood was so successful that it propelled Stallone to even higher heights of stardom, with Rambo 2 being released in 1985 and Rambo 3 in 1988. In some ways, I feel that Stallone was one of the pioneers of creating franchises before they became popular with the likes of Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and the whole DC Marvel Star Wars universe films that are plaguing the box office. This led him to more box office successes by directing, writing, and starring in Rocky III in 1982 and Rocky IV in 1985. Between John Rambo and Rocky Balboa, Stallone has portrayed these two characters in a total of 11 films up to this day. Apparently, in preparation for the roles, Stallone would go on vigorous training regimens, which included 6 days a week in the gym and further sit-ups in the evening. According to Stallone, his body fat was as low as 2.8% for Rocky III. For Rocky IV, he met up with former Mr. Olympia Franco Columbu to develop his character's appearance for the films Rocky IV and Rambo 2, just as if preparing for the Mr. Olympia competition. This actually meant 2 workouts a day, 6 days a week. Speak about dedication. Even Stallone says that he may have looked good, but it actually wasn't very healthy to be doing what he did. Slowly, Stallone started becoming extremely famous, especially overseas, where the action genre had become a favorite amongst many people. And around this time period, Stallone started to branch out a little bit in other genres, such as the comedy Rhinestone, where he acted alongside Dolly Parton, for which he composed the soundtrack for, and tells the story of a country music star that makes a bet that she can turn an obnoxious cab driver into a professional country singer. this movie was a complete flop, even though the soundtrack produced 2 top country singles. Another commercial flop of the time was the 1987 movie entitled Over the Top, produced by Canon Films, where he plays a struggling trucker who arm wrestles to make extra cash and is doing his best to get closer to his estranged son. This movie was one of 3 bigger budgeted films produced by Canon Pictures alongside Superman 4 and Masters of the Universe that pretty much ruined the low-budget film company. Stallone got paid $12 million to act in it, and the movie cost $25 million to make but only returned $11.5 million at the box office. It was poorly received by critics and is often spoken about because of its larger budget but very low rating score. Other notable 80s Stallone films were Cobra, which was released in 1986 and tells the story of a tough cop who must protect the only surviving witness to a strange murderous cult with far-reaching plans. Even though the movie was a critical failure, it actually grossed $160 million, which was about 6 times its $25 million budget. This kind of shows you once again what is considered a success business-wise. It's not really how good the movie is, but more so how much money it made. In 1989, Stallone acted in Tango and Cash alongside Kurt Russell and tells the story of 2 narcotic experts played by Stallone and Russell who bring down a drug lord, Eve Parrott. In order to prevent them in doing so, Parrott sets up Tango and Cash, making it look as if they've killed an FBI agent. Because of this, both agents get arrested and need to create an escape plan. Once out, they team up with Tango's exotic dancer sister, played by Terry Hatcher, in order to clear their records and take down Parrott. This is a pretty straightforward action flip that once again got poor reviews but did extremely well at the worldwide box office. The 90s started off with a new installment to his Rocky franchise. After all, he is the king of franchises, and I do agree that if a character is a fan favorite, sometimes, well, it's a safer bet to bring that character back, at least to please the audience and to some familiarity, although movie studios tend to do that a little too much nowadays with bad sequels and so many reboots and remakes. And Rocky V was once again such a movie where it did very poorly at the box office. Even though Rocky V isn't very good, this movie is pretty notable for having his real-life son Sage Stallone playing as his son in the film. Sage passed away in 2012 at the age of 36 from coronary heart disease. Around the same time in 1991 and 1992, Stallone attempted to get into comedy, just like Schwarzenegger was doing with movies such as Twins and Kindergarten Cop. After all, Sylvester and Arnold were always compared in those days, and for studios to want to mimic the success of another action movie star, well, it just made sense. The 2 comedy movies that he made were Oscar and Stop, or My Mom Will Shoot. In Oscar, he plays a gangster who attempts to keep the promise he made to his dying father that he would give up his life of crime and go straight. Whereas in Stop, or My Mom Will Shoot, he plays a tough cop. His frail mother, Tootie, comes to stay with him and progressively interferes in his life, driving him crazy. Comedy wasn't really his forte, so going back to action didn't come as a surprise. In 1993, he made Cliffhanger, and this was a huge success, grossing $171 million worldwide. Cliffhanger tells the story of a mountain climber who becomes entangled in the heist of a US Treasury plane flying through the Rocky Mountains. When I was a kid, I remember seeing the trailer so vividly, and the fact that all the action was set in a snow-covered area just made it seem like such a thrill. Combining action with the torrid cold of the mountaintops was pretty darn genius for its time. The mid-90s was a good time for Stallone as he acted in one of my all-time favorite action films entitled Demolition Man alongside Wesley Snipes and a very young Sandra Bullock. The film tells the story of Stallone, a risk-taking police officer who tends to demolish everything in order to apprehend criminals, and snips an evil crime lord who creates havoc all around him. Following a trial, they are both cryogenically frozen in 1996 and reanimated in 2032 to find mainstream society changed and all crime seemingly eliminated. This movie has amazing action in it and shows a very interesting future. Also, there's the whole mystery about the 3 shells that has me wondering about them up to this day. In 1995, before all of these DC or Marvel Universe movies were popular, Stallone got hired to play in the movie entitled Judge Dredd that takes place in 2018 and depicts a dystopian world in the crime-ridden metropolis Mega City 1. Following a disaster that turned Earth into a cursed wasteland, the survivors established a corps of judges whose role combines that of police, judge, jury, and executioner. Judge Dredd, played by Sylvester Stallone, gets framed for murder by his half-brother and must face his murderous counterpart. Another notable film from that era is the 1997 movie entitled Copland. This time Stallone got to play alongside Robert De Niro and was a very different movie for him, as this was a legit noir crime drama which had some very heavy acting scenes. I'm not saying that his other movies didn't have good acting, but this one was particular in the case that it wasn't an action-based movie. Copland tells the story of the sheriff of a suburban New Jersey community populated by corrupt New York City police officers. As their corruption grows, Stallone can no longer allow himself to stand by and takes matters in his own hands. A nice highlight from this era was the 1998 CGI animated movie Ants, where he does voiceover for the ant called Weaver, who is a soldier, and Z is the protagonist's best friend. This movie came out during an era where Disney and DreamWorks seemed to be always in constant battle, so whenever Disney did one animated film, the latter did another one that was very similar to the other one. Well, the same year An Ant's Life was released by Disney. I wanted to point that out as the 90s had many similar coincidences. Well, this marks the end of the 90s era of Stallone films. I didn't cite every movie, but the most influential that marked me as a teenager. This video will be followed by a third part which will encompass Sylvester Stallone's career in the 2000s up to current times. Please be sure to subscribe and smash the like button. Please do leave me a comment and let me know what your best Sylvester Stallone movie moments are. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.